Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology. What's that? That's the study of books and reading and notebooks and writing mixed with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. Here, you'll find episodes exploring the reading and writing life and how they can make our actual lives better. You'll get book recommendations and notebooking prompts around particular themes, and you'll even hear from authors and special guests who can fuel our reading and writing hearts and help us take inspired action in our own daily practices. So, grab a notebook and your TBR list, and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host and bookologist, here with another episode to help you harness the power of reading and writing to make life better. Now, if you know me and you've been listening for a while, you know that I am a book-loving, notebook hoarding reader and writer. I read a lot, I write a lot. I have a lot of books, and I have a lot of notebooks too. Now, you're likely listening to this because, well, you do too. And while I do believe it's important to surround yourself with more books and more notebooks than you might ever be able to read and write in this lifetime, there is one particular kind of listener that I want to talk to today. I see you. I see you with your stacks of beautiful notebooks that you haven't even cracked the spine of. I see you with your notebooks that you wrote in once and you haven't returned to it since. I see you, the person who is afraid that those notebooks are too pretty and too perfect and you'll mess them up. I see you. And while we could dive into all sorts of ideas around this topic, the myths, the limiting beliefs, even the lies we tell ourselves about what notebooking and journaling should be. And if you want to dive into that, be sure to tell me. We could make that into an episode. Today, I am looking right at you. I am talking right to you with an invitation to just choose one notebook and start. I have been lucky enough to work with a lot of people to help them grow a writing slash journaling slash notebooking habit, whatever you would like to call it. We've tackled things like finding the time to write, knowing which materials, which notebooks, which pens are right for us. We've gotten over our fear of perfectionism and all of the other things that come around with just getting started on the page. But there's something that always seems to come up, no matter who I'm talking to. And that's the topic I want to talk about on the episode today. What do I put in that notebook? What do I write in that notebook that is worthy of the page? What kind of notebook do I make that will live up to how pretty the notebook is? What should I write that will be good enough for me to see in print? Right? I bet you a lot of you are nodding along with me right now, and we've all been there, but some of us get stuck there longer than others. So today, I am here with some rapid fire ideas to help you put pencil to paper and start reaping those physical, cognitive, mental, emotional benefits of starting a notebook practice. Now, you might have one notebook and just give a bunch of these ideas a try to see which one works for you. Or if you're like me, you might like to dedicate your notebooks to certain topics. And so if one of these ideas resonates with you, just pick a notebook and dedicate it to that and get going. So I know you've got those empty notebooks laying around. Pick one, listen to the 20 different rapid fire ideas I am going to give you in today's episode, and then get writing. Okay, These are in no particular order of importance. This is just me riffing all of my ideas and literally looking at my own stacks of notebooks to see what I would recommend today. So here we go. Number one, try a morning pages notebook. Now, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know I love my morning pages time. You get up, pretty close to getting up, you grab your notebook, your writing utensil, your cup of coffee, or whatever it is you like to drink, and you enjoy that time. So, if you want to know more about what morning pages are and how they work, I want you to go listen to episode 58, which is all about morning pages, or go to episode 125, which is about how I blend my magical practice of morning reading and writing in my morning page notebook. But it's basically a space to wake up, put whatever is on your mind and heart on the page, and then get going with your day. Number two is a notebook of affirmations. People usually love this notebook because it isn't you having to figure out what you want to read. It is you collecting all of the sage advice of others that you want to bring into your own life. So maybe you have a small notebook laying around. Pick it up, write inspiring quotes every time you find one on social media or in your email or on a website browse. Open up the notebook and jot it down. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't, at how uplifting this practice is to literally embody those positive affirmations on the page. Now, idea number three is related to affirmations, but instead of affirmations, they are quotes. They are quotes from the books you are reading, those wonderful lines, right? I just did episode 140, which was called Lifting Lines from Literature. And that's exactly what a notebook could collect for you. The beautiful quotes from when you're reading. And if you'd like to, you can extend that to just beautiful quotes in general, not necessarily affirmation practices or affirmation quotations, but just quotes that are speaking to you right now and you want to hold on to them. Idea number four is to try a reading notebook. Get out that notebook and just start collecting the titles that you're reading. Have a page for the title and the author. Maybe you have a page for every book you read and you write the book at the top. And then you just list your quotes you love, the questions you had, the thoughts you had, the connections you made. Maybe you even print out a little sticker of the cover if you have one of those cool little printers, and anything else that comes to mind before, during, and after reading that book. Now, if you want to dive into this more, I do have an episode in my Patreon community called Flaneuring Through Our Reading Lives, which basically means taking it slow, taking our time, and really expanding our reading through a practice like a reading notebook. Now, notebook number five, you could try a gratitude practice. This is the best, right? This is where you either wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, or whenever you're in a bad mood and you need to get yourself out of it, you sit down and you think of at least three things that you're grateful for. Five is better, 10 is better than that, however many you need. Anything on the page can be worth celebrating. Now, remember, in order to make it a truly effective gratitude practice, that gratitude needs to be specific and timely. So, something within the last 24 hours that is very specific that you could then revel and savor that memory and call it up in your body and put it on the page. Idea number six is a 5-year journal or a line a day journal. Now, I know there are notebooks that are specifically designed for this purpose. I actually have one, but that doesn't mean that you have to go buy one. You can literally take one notebook and then just on the left side of every line, date the day, and then write one thing from your day and list it down and down and down and down the page over and over and over again. So you have one sentence memories of your life. You could get fancier and you could buy a notebook or no, we're not buying notebooks, right? We're using our old ones. I like to buy notebooks. Get that notebook, open it up, and on the top of the page, put the day January 1. Next page, January 2. Next page, January 3. And then every day, go to that page, note the year on the left, and write something from that day of the year. And then you will have created your very own 5-year journal in a notebook that you have laying around the house. Now, next up is a work notebook or a professional notebook, right? We often have meetings, Zoom calls, to-do lists, all sorts of things that make our professional lives busy. If you had one notebook that could track them all, those meeting notes, those to-do lists, those ideas, those plans, that can help you feel organized, that can help you feel more accomplished, and it can help you feel more productive. There's just something about holding on to that notebook that you can have at any time, in addition to Google Docs, in addition to Google Keeps, and in addition to any calendar you might use. So get one of those and just start dumping everything from your work life in there, carry it around with you, and I promise you will likely use that one more than you think. Now, idea number 8 is to try a writer's notebook. Basically, a writer's notebook is more of a creative writing outlet. If you want to write a book, if you want to write a picture book, a middle grade novel, a young adult novel, adult fiction, historical fiction, nonfiction, a personal development book, poetry, whatever it is, you can have a notebook where you just collect those seeds of ideas, try out opening lines, try out dialogue between your characters. Have a notebook where you dream and writing, and you bring that writing to life on the page so that you get the confidence, you get the ideas that you might need to go further with it and actually attempt to put it out into the world. Or you don't show anybody, and that's okay too. You just have these wonderful bits of writing that you can look back on and know that you did that. Number 10 is a to-do list notebook. Now, if you're like me, you have to-do lists everywhere. I have them digitally, I have them on sticky notes, I have them on special weekly one-page calendars that are sitting on my counter. And I love crossing them off. And I know I'm looking at you because you are like me, many of you. And when you do something that's not on that list, you put it on the list just so that you can cross it off. Now, I have not tried this to-do list notebook idea and really brought it to life. I do have a little notebook that is a long, skinny notebook that is designed for list making. And so I do have a notebook that just has lots of cool lists in it. But what if we took one of our notebooks, whether it was a little one, a medium one, or a big one, and we just housed our daily to-do lists there? We could have a record of what our lives were like over time based on the things that we put on our to-do list. We could also get a jolt of dopamine when we look back at all the things that we've crossed out and realize all of the things that we've accomplished. So rather than using those sticky notes here and, index cards over there or whatever you use to keep track of your to-do lists, maybe you grab out one of those notebooks and you feel really good about using it and seeing that beautiful cover and being productive. Number 10 is a hobby notebook or a passion project notebook. And I will have an upcoming episode on this because I am actually making a new hobby slash passion project notebook for myself. And I want to tell you all about it and tell you how it might help you and whatever hobby or passion or idea you are trying to grow. But this is basically a notebook that's just dedicated to one thing you love. Do you love gardening? Well, put pictures of beautiful gardens, put lists of seeds that you want to buy for the springtime, put to-do lists for how you want to close up your garden for the winter, put a list of websites that have the most beautiful gardens to look at, a list of people to follow on social media, a list of books that you could read about gardening, a list of journal prompts that are in the gardening theme that might help you. See where I'm going with that? One notebook that helps you grow into something that you love. You could have one for gardening, for running, for reading, for baking, for cooking, right? Recipe books. That's basically a project slash passion project book. That could be a fun way to boost yourself into a hobby and help you feel really good about the notebooking you're doing too. Number 11 is a good old bullet journal. Now, a lot of us do bullet journaling in a variety of notebooks, but one of your notebooks could just be a bullet journal. And the great thing is, that bullet journal can look like whatever you want it to look like. You could have bullet journal spreads for the year, the month, the quarter, trimester, the week, the day. You could have to-do lists, you could have plans, you could have reflections, you could have audits, you could have habit trackers. You can have whatever you want in your bullet notebook. Generally, bullet notebooks are typically dot grid, but that does not mean that has to be the case. My notebook that I tend to use in a bullet journal style, it still has light lines. So a bullet journal might be something that appeals to you, and you could dive deep into this. You could go into the whole bullet journal, drinking the tea and the lemonade kind of cult that is there in a wonderful way. And so one of those notebooks might be the Kickstarter you need to get more organized and productive and have more time to do the things that you want to do by trying a bullet journal. Number 12 is a journal for your health and wellness. This is where you can track and plan and set goals for you on the inside, right? So you could meal plan here. You could put out exercise plans. You could track your meal plan, track your exercise, track your water intake. You could track any health challenges that you have, both the positive ways that you feel and maybe the negative symptoms that you have, so that you can figure out some trends and patterns and figure out how to make it better. Number 13 is a shared notebook. Have you considered having a notebook that you pass back and forth? These notebooks can be a lot of fun. I have done this with my kids where we just leave notebooks in places and write messages back and forth to each other when they were younger. You could have a notebook with a spouse, with a best friend. Anything goes here, but perhaps you think of one of those notebooks and you share it with someone so it doesn't feel quite so intimidating to fill up. Number 14 is a commonplace notebook or a commonplace journal. This is a whole big thing too. It's basically a journal that just tries to capture what life was like at this time for you. So it could be a journal slash diary slash notebook, but it also has stuff. It has coupons from this time of year. It could have a picture of what your inside of your refrigerator looked like. It could have newspaper clippings or something that was printed from the internet that really showcases this time, right? When we think about commonplace notebooks, right? What would your life look like, have looked like 10 years ago versus during the pandemic versus right now? Commonplace notebooks collect things from you and things from the world to get a really good picture of what life was like then. And imagine in 100 years when someone finds our commonplace notebooks and could say, oh my gosh, that's what life was like back then. A commonplace notebook might be an easier lift for those of you who know that it's not just my writing that's going to fill the page, but I can paste and stick and glue and collect anything in there that I want. Number 15, try a recipe notebook. You don't need a fancy recipe notebook. You don't need any special, index cards and boxes. Just get out a notebook and write a recipe at the top and start collecting your favorites. People will appreciate that it is in your own handwriting, and you can just keep this collection growing as your prowess in the kitchen grows as well. Number 16. Okay, this one is one that I am trying. I've not done this. I found this in my research for this episode, and I thought this is the notebook that I have been missing. So I follow Kathleen Adams, who has this program called Journal to the Self. And it's basically life coaching through your writing and notebooking and journaling. And she has this practice that she calls unsent letters. Okay, so this is where you write a letter to someone to say what you need to say without actually delivering it. It could be a letter to yourself, to your spouse, to your kids, to your coworkers, to your boss, to the world, to some stranger you don't know, but you saw them on social media, to the guy that cut you off on the road on the way to work. These letters can be to anybody. And you pour out whatever emotion is staying stuck in you, and you pour it out on the page, and you just keep them. So you could have a notebook of all of these unsent letters as a celebration of you finding your voice and putting it on the paper. Now, whether you decide to send them, whether you decide to say those thoughts is up to you. Chances are a lot of what goes into an unsent notebook is first draft thinking that maybe we don't want to say when our emotions are high. But I love the idea of having a notebook dedicated to this idea. So unsent letters could go into a special unsent letters notebook. And yes, I'm going to try it and I will report back to you. Number 17, another idea for those notebooks laying around is a nature notebook, right? There's so much benefit to going out in nature, breathing the fresh air, putting your feet in the grass, listening to the birds, looking around without glasses or blue light or stressors. So much. Why not capture it? Why not capture it? Take pictures, but then put your phone away, of course, print them out, sketch what you see, and get out your colorful crayons and your colorful um, pencils, colored pencils. You could note down the different flowers you see, the different weeds, the different trees, the birds you hear, the animals you see. There are so many people that I admire on Instagram that are nature journalers. And I would look up, I am chasing butterflies, if that is one notebook that you might want to have, because I just love looking at her notebooks and her spreads. So number 17 could be a nature notebook. Number 18, get out one of those notebooks, get a pencil, and put it next to your bed and track your dreams. I always say I'm going to do this, and I never do. I have so many dreams, and I think that I'm going to remember them, and I don't. And some of them are just strange. Some of them I want to figure out why I'm having them, and I want to remember them, but by the time I'm up and my mind is clear, I've forgotten them. So having a dream journal might just be a fun way to capture all that's going on in your brain when you are asleep. I also am one of those people that wake up at night with different ideas, and I need somewhere to write them down. So this dream journal could be a dreams while you're sleeping, but also dreams for when you are awake, and just hold on to those. So a notebook right by your bed. Number 19 is a specific kind of notebook that I've talked about recently in my Patreon community, and it's a Start Today notebook. It is created, or it was created, by Rachel Hollis. There is a special notebook, if you still have it, that used to be available. But Rachel really says just get out any old notebook and do these 3 things. Every morning, wake up and write 3 things you are grateful for. Okay, timely and specific within the last 24 hours and with great detail so that you can feel it in your body. Then write down 10 dreams, but write down those 10 dreams you have as if you've already done them, so that we're kind of training our subconscious mind to realize this thing is possible. And by writing it down on the page, we are literally embodying it in our cells, which makes it more likely for us to take the action we need to bring those dreams to life. And then step 3 at the bottom is, what's my goal for today? What's my goal I'm working on? Let me ground myself in that before I get started on my day and I get that thing done, so that I actually am moving closer to those 10 dreams. So if you want to know more about the Start Today practice, I go in deep in it in my Patreon group. You can head to getliterate.co, or you can head to alitlife.com and click on the Patreon link there. But a Start Today journal could be a really great way to get that pen to paper without overstressing what you're writing about. Now, last up, number 20 is one of my favorite notebooks, and it's a tradition in the podcast. It's a tradition in my Get Literate community to have a holiday notebook. If you don't know what a holiday notebook is, I want you to go back to episode 94 where I talk about this practice for the very first time. And then I want you to go to episode one. No, actually, I got that backwards. For the very first time, go way back to episode 21, where I talk about my holiday notebook and I share what it looks like for 2002. Then jump to episode 94, where I talk about how I revised my notebook for holiday of 2023. And yes, there will be one coming up at the start of December of how, actually, it'll be earlier than that, of how my notebook is looking and how it's taking shape for 2024. But a holiday notebook is just basically a way to control your holidays and to plan for them so that you can better enjoy them. You've got everything in there: recipes to make, people to shop for, things you've already picked up, the parties you need to attend, the cards you need to send, the traditions you don't want to forget. And then you make it so it's holiday-y, right? So there's stickers in there and colorful markers and maybe even some glitter, who knows? It is a fun way to kick off the holiday season, and it just helps you feel more present and grounded and less stressed so that you can enjoy it. So the holidays are coming up. We are moving in on that fall time. So you could grab one of those and turn it into a holiday notebook with me. Just stay tuned for the episode coming up soon in a couple of weeks to get your holiday notebook started. Okay, there you have it. 20 ideas. I'm going to list them one more time so there's no excuses why you can't find one that works for you. Ready? Morning pages, affirmations, quotes, reading notebook, gratitude journal, 5-year journal, a work notebook, a writer's notebook, a to-do list notebook, a hobby or project notebook, a bullet journal, a health and wellness notebook, a shared notebook, a commonplace notebook, a recipe notebook, an unsent letters notebook, a nature notebook, a dreams notebook, a start today notebook, and last but not least, a holiday notebook. So here is your challenge. Your challenge before the next episode of this podcast is released in 1 week is to pick up one of those notebooks you have laying around the house. Any one of them. Choose any one of the ideas that I have just listed, and you know one was speaking to you. One jumped out to you. Don't overthink it. Just go with it. Pick the notebook, pick the topic, and give something a try. Just start putting pen to paper or all of the stuff you're going to collect and put it to paper. And just see if one of these ideas sparks a practice for you. Don't stress yourself out over it. You don't have to do it every day. It doesn't have to look beautiful. But now that you have an idea and you already have the notebook, why not get started? So I would love to hear from you. Please share all of the different notebook ideas that you have. Share which ones resonated with you from this episode that you might try. And, maybe I'll be able to steal one from you and keep adding to my own notebook stack. You can find the show notes to this episode at alitlife.com, and you can put your comment there. You can head to social media. Maybe you snap a picture of the notebook that you're now going to use and you tag me so that I can see it. Or if you are in your podcast platform, just click on that audio button and you can send me a message instead. I love those audio messages. And remember, if you want more support in bringing whatever literate life you want to life, especially notebooking, you can join my Patreon community at getliterate.co or head to alitlife.com and click on the link in the show notes. But I also offer coaching. I've got really fun one-to-one sessions where we dive into how to bring your reading and writing life to life in your actual life to make it better. So find me anywhere online, and I would love to start a conversation on how we can better connect and partner together. So in the meantime, thank you for listening. Go find that notebook, go pick that idea, go get started, and let me know what it is. I'll see you in the next episode, everyone. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking inspiration, live events, giveaways, and more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. Learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing, if you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow, and it builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.